Scary animal facts that will blow your mind. Did you know that some spiders can paralyze their prey with venom that's 15 times stronger than a rattlesnake's? Sharks have been around for over 400 million years, outliving the dinosaurs. Snakes can unhinge their jaws to swallow prey much larger than their own head. On June 30th, 1999, sheriff's officers in St. Louis, Missouri, discovered the body of 41-year-old Ricky McCormick. He had been murdered and dumped in a field. The only clues regarding the homicide were two encrypted notes found in the victim's pants pockets. In 2017, Vishwas G and 25 other students took a college trip to a temple. While there, Vishwas and a group of friends gathered together inside of a pond to take a selfie. Hours later, the group noticed Vishwas was missing. While looking at the photos they had taken, Vishwas was seen drowning in the background. Think you know everything about Harry Potter? Did you know that J.K. Rowling based the Dementors on her own experience with depression? And did you know that the basilisk in Chamber of Secrets was inspired by a real-life mythological creature? J.K. Rowling also revealed that she accidentally made a Horcrux in real life. Have you ever heard of the Conjuring House? It's known for its terrifying paranormal activity. Jen and Corey Heinzen, who bought the house in 2019, have noticed an all-black apparition peeking at them from a downstairs bedroom's doorway. They've additionally heard footsteps and knocks and have seen lights flashing. The black swallower is a deep-sea fish that can swallow fish more than 10 times its own mass, thanks to its expansive stomach. In 2007, a swallower measuring just 7.5 inches long was found dead after it swallowed and failed to digest a 34-inch snake mackerel. In 1335, when King Pedro of Portugal was crowned, he dug up his mistress to have her properly honored as his queen. Loyal subjects bowed before her corpse and kissed her hands. In 1871, Ohio lawyer Clement Vallandigham was defending a client on a charge of murder. While showing the court how the victim might have accidentally shot himself, Clement really did accidentally shoot himself. He died, but he won the case. This 2015 photo was taken by a paramedic in front of a hospital in California. It shows an ER doctor who stepped outside to cry for a moment after losing a 19-year-old patient. Minutes later, he walked back inside with his head held high and continued on to his next patient. This picture shows NASA Flight Director Jay Green's immediate reaction as Space Shuttle Challenger disintegrated on January 28, 1986. The live broadcasted explosion killed all 7 crew members, marking the deadliest spaceflight disaster. In 2006, Magali Jaskiewicz, a French mother of 2, married her fiancé a year after he was killed in a car crash. A section of the French Civil Code states it is possible for a bride or groom to marry a dead fiancé as long as there is clear evidence that they planned to marry before the loved one died. On March 27, 1977, an overcrowded foggy airport led to 2 747 passenger jets crashing on a runway on the Spanish island of Tenerife, killing 583 people. It remains one of the worst disasters in aviation history. This is the photo Kurt Diemberger took after his companion, the famed alpinist Hermann Buhl, fell into the abyss on the Himalayan mountain Chagolisa. Buhl was walking behind Diemberger and momentarily left the trail after he fell through an overhanging cornice. He remains in the ice. Carlos Hathcock was a Vietnam War American sniper who volunteered to crawl 2,000 meters of open land for 3 days, containing enemy headquarters. He took a single shot, which killed an NVA general. He then crawled all the way back, moving inches at a time, while enemy patrol were out there looking for a sniper. In the 1980s, A family owned and operated a ceramics factory in California called Oscar Ceramics. In 1987, the firm was uncovered as an illegal crematorium when a passerby, who happened to be a Holocaust survivor, recognized the smell of burning bodies from his time at Auschwitz and alerted authorities. When Don Carcos fought in 1942 during World War II, he was hit with shrapnel and blinded in his right eye. While working on a raceway 64 years later, a horse headbutted him in the same spot, threw him against the wall, and he woke up the next day with his vision restored. Anna Bagenholm survived one of the lowest body temperatures ever recorded at 56.7 degrees Fahrenheit or 13.7 degrees Celsius. She had been skiing when she fell through a frozen stream and became stuck for 80 minutes. Despite being clinically dead, she made a full recovery and started working at the same hospital that saved her life. The tomb of little Merritt Beardsley, an 8-year-old boy who died of an incurable sickness in 1865. A few days before he died, he told his dad that he was afraid to be buried in a dark tomb. His parents honored his wish and put a window in his tomb. Scary facts about your brain. Did you know your brain keeps working for 10 minutes after you die? The brain itself can't feel pain. Chronic stress causes the brain to shrink. Your brain can power a dim light bulb. The scary, dumbest ways people have died. In a bizarre turn of events, a man attempted to take a selfie with a wild bear. A daredevil thought it would be a good idea to jump off a cliff without a parachute. A person tried to swim with sharks, thinking they were friendly. Scary worst ways to die in ancient time. Crucifixion. Rat torture. Stretching the body. Being dragged beneath a ship. This is the last photo of the survivors of HMAS Armidale, which sunk on December 1, 1942, after being torpedoed by Japanese bombers. This photo was taken from a Catalina flying boat on the 8th, but was unable to land due to rough seas. The men in the raft would never be seen again. In 1941, Witold Pilecki, a Polish soldier, volunteered to be placed in a concentration camp to prove to the Allies that the Holocaust was real. While a prisoner at Auschwitz, he organized resistance movements and eventually escaped after 3 years of imprisonment. In 2016, the mummified body of German sailor Manfred Fritz Bajorat was found on an abandoned yacht in the Philippines. He apparently died while attempting to use the radio, possibly to call for help. Investigators believe he died of a heart attack or a stroke. The actor Bela Lugosi, who famously filmed Count Dracula in the 1931 film, requested to be dressed in his vampire attire during his open casket funeral in 1956. In 1974, the 3,000-year-old mummy of Pharaoh Ramses II was issued a valid Egyptian passport so that he could be flown to Paris for repair. UFO sightings have been reported for centuries, dating back to ancient civilizations. Some UFO encounters have resulted in unexplained physical effects on witnesses, such as burns or radiation exposure. There have been cases of alleged abductions where people claim to have been taken aboard UFOs against their will. Shen Lu was shot 34 times in the head and neck with a nail gun before being dumped in a river. Lu's badly decomposed body was found by 2 kids in Sydney in 2008, about 2 weeks after a friend reported him missing. Police believe he was killed 12 days before his body was discovered. There are over 2,000 reported cases of people disappearing in national parks and forests every year. There are more than 40,000 species of spiders in the world, and some of them can kill you in just a few hours. The full moon can make people act crazy and increase the number of emergency room visits. In 2014, 3 people died inside a flight simulator in a flight safety building at the Wichita's Mid-Continent Airport in Kansas when a real plane crashed into it. The pilot of the Beechcraft King Air B-200 twin turboprop was killed along with 3 people in the building. Imagine this. You're home alone and suddenly your Apple Vision Pro starts acting up. It's tracking something invisible in the room. What if it's a ghost or an unseen presence? The Apple Vision Pro's advanced technology might just be revealing the supernatural world around us. Reddit's anonymous nature allows users to share their darkest secrets and stories, leading to some spine-chilling content. There are countless subreddits dedicated to the creepy and paranormal, like r No Sleep and r Creepy Encounters, where users share their terrifying experiences. Did you know that Starbucks uses a secret ingredient in their famous pumpkin spice latte? It's rumored to be harvested from haunted pumpkin patches. And beware of the baristas. Some say they possess magical powers capable of brewing spells into your morning brew. Late night Starbucks visits? You might encounter the ghostly presence of the original Starbucks mermaid said to haunt certain locations. But the scariest secret of all, the addictive nature of Starbucks drinks. Once you take the first sip, you'll be hooked forever. Scary facts about the internet. Over 30,000 websites are hacked daily. The dark web is 500 times larger than the surface web, hiding illegal activities and more. Cyberbullying affects 1 in 5 teens, so always be kind online. Identity theft occurs every 2 seconds, affecting millions of people each year. In 1983, a 22-year-old man named Michael Anderson Godwin was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment at the Central Correctional Institute in South Carolina. An earlier verdict for his crime was to have him electrocuted, but it was overturned on appeal. 6 years later, he was sitting on his toilet, apparently trying to connect his earphones to his television, when he bit into the wire and was electrocuted to death. Herobrine is a mysterious character rumored to appear in the game, causing havoc and terror. While Mojang has denied its existence, players still claim to have encountered this eerie figure. There's a seed called 666 that's said to spawn players in a world filled with creepy occurrences and strange structures. Disc 11 is an unsettling music disc with distorted sounds and eerie noises. Some believe it holds a dark secret or a hidden message. In 1900, American physician Jesse William Lazar tried to prove that yellow fever was transmitted by mosquitoes by letting infected mosquitoes bite him. He then died of the disease, proving himself right. On May 29, 2011, William and Peggy Stevenson were found murdered inside their home, located in Florence, Kentucky. A family member discovered them after William did not show up at church. Bill Stevenson ran the Truckers Chapel at the Travel America truck stop in Florence for many years. Bill and Peggy Stevenson were both 74 years old at the time of their death. General John Sedgwick was killed by a sniper in the American Civil War shortly after uttering the words, "They couldn't hit an elephant at this distance." Contrary to popular belief, though, they weren't his last words. They were his second to last. His last words were agreeing that dodging was in fact a good idea. Paul Michael Stefani was an American serial killer. He was known as the weepy-voiced killer due to a series of telephone calls he made to police, anonymously reporting his crimes in a remorseful and high-pitched voice. Stefani killed 3 women in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. On April 26, 2003, during a solo descent off Blue John Canyon in southeastern Utah, Aaron Ralston dislodged a boulder, pinning his right wrist to the side of the canyon. After 5 days, he had to break his forearm, amputate it with a dull pocket knife to break free, make his way through the rest of the canyon, rappel down a 65-foot drop, and hike 7 miles to safety. In 2010, Jim Hesselden, the owner of the company that makes Segways, died after riding one of the scooters off a cliff and into a river near his estate. According to the British media, Hesselden, age 62, plunged into the river wharf while riding a rugged country version of the two-wheeled transporter. Leslie Whittle was murdered in January 1975 after being kidnapped from her home by Donald Nielsen, who by that time had committed over 400 burglaries and 3 fatal shootings. Nielsen held Leslie in a reservoir drainage shaft. He was later convicted and was sentenced to life in prison. In 2015, the mummified remains of a monk were found inside a nearly 1,000-year-old Chinese statue of a Buddha. The mummy inside the gold-painted papier-mâché statue is believed to be that of Lu Quan, a Buddhist master of the Chinese meditation school who died around the year 1100, researchers said. In order to keep Genghis Khan's burial a secret, a frequently recounted tale by Marco Polo states that all 2,000+ people who attended his funeral were executed. The executioners were then killed by members of his escort, who eventually took their own lives when they reached their destination. Other tales state that his grave was stampeded over by many horses, that trees were then planted over the site, and that the permafrost also played its part in the hiding of the burial site. More than 800 years later, the burial site remains undiscovered to this day, but it is strongly implied that the most likely location is somewhere in the vicinity of the Mongol sacred mountain of Burkhan Khaldun in the Khenti mountain range. On May 12, 2000, near the middle of the dark Antarctic winter, an Australian astrophysicist named Rodney Marks died from a sudden and mysterious illness at the Amundsen Scott Station, the American scientific research base located at the geographic South Pole. Because winter flights to the South Pole are dangerous, his body was kept frozen until the spring, when it was flown back to New Zealand. An autopsy revealed he had died of methanol poisoning, probably by swallowing methanol without knowing. After an investigation which included trying to interview up to 49 people who had overwintered at Amundsen Scott Station with Marks, the New Zealand police ruled out suicide and thought it unlikely that Marks had accidentally poisoned himself. In 2008, a New Zealand coroner ruled that there was no evidence to suggest foul play, but the events surrounding Rodney Marks's poisoning have never been determined, and the case has gained a reputation in some news media as the first murder at the South Pole. Richard Batista gave his wife a kidney. 4 years later, she filed for a divorce. During court, Richard demanded she return his kidney or pay $1.5 million. In 2001, Donnell Batista was suffering from kidney disease and was in need of a transplant. Richard, her husband at the time, offered to donate one of his kidneys. The transplant was a success, and Donnell's health improved significantly. However, the couple's marriage began to deteriorate, and they eventually divorced in 2005. During the divorce proceedings, Richard made the surprising demand that Donnell return the kidney he had donated to her or pay $1.5 million in compensation, arguing that it was a gift given in the expectation of love and companionship which had not been fulfilled. It was ruled that organs in the United States may not be bought or sold, and donating one is considered a gift. Richard did not get his kidney back or any compensation. Joyce Carol Vincent was an Englishwoman whose death went unnoticed for more than 2 years as her corpse lay undiscovered at her bedsit in North London. Prior to her death, she had cut off nearly all contact with those who knew her. She resigned from her job in 2001 and moved into a shelter for victims of domestic abuse. Around the same time, she began to reduce contact with friends and family. She died sometime in December 2003. Her remains were discovered on the 25th of January 2006, with the cause of death believed to be either an asthma attack or complications from a recent peptic ulcer. In 2014, YouTuber Kenny Veach claimed he found a strange cave in a southern Nevada desert that gave off strong vibrations. On a YouTube video he wrote, "The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there." 1 month later, he went back to look for the cave and never returned. He has not been seen nor heard from since. 45-year-old woman named Christine Barnett adopted a 6-year-old Ukrainian girl in 2010, but in 2019 was charged with abandoning her daughter in Indiana and fleeing to Canada in 2013. The woman, however, claims her daughter was found to be a 22-year-old sociopath with dwarfism who was pretending to be a child, and that she tried to kill her on multiple occasions. Christine claims the girl tried pushing her onto an electric fence, poured bleach into her coffee, and threatened to stab her in her sleep. She says the adoption was a scam, and the girl was actually born in 1989. In 1961, Michael Rockefeller, the youngest son of former Vice President Nelson Rockefeller and the grandson of American financier John D. Rockefeller Jr., disappeared during his journey through Netherlands, New Guinea. It was originally reported that Rockefeller either drowned or was attacked by a shark or saltwater crocodile. However, because headhunting and cannibalism were still present in some areas of Asmat in 1961, there has also been speculation that Rockefeller may have been killed and eaten by tribespeople. A book titled Rocky Goes West by author Paul Toohey claims that in 1979, Rockefeller's mother hired a private investigator to go to New Guinea and try to resolve the mystery of his disappearance. The reliability of the story has been questioned, but Toohey claims that the private investigator swapped a boat engine for the skulls of the 3 men that a tribe claimed were the only white men they had ever killed. A 2,100-year-old mummy named Lady Di is considered to be the best preserved mummy in the world. When she was discovered in 1971, her hair was intact, her skin was soft to the touch, and her veins still housed type A blood. After analyzing her body, it was determined that when she died more than 2,000 years ago, she was overweight and was believed to have been suffering from high blood pressure, clogged arteries, diabetes, and also had a severely damaged heart. Her body was so well preserved that they also believed the last thing she ate before her death was melon. When her tomb was discovered, the body had been buried with her wardrobe of 100 silk garments, 160 carved wooden figures, representing her servants as well as her makeup and toiletries. The body itself was swaddled in more than 20 layers of silk, and then sealed within 4 coffins, packed with charcoal and sealed with clay, making it watertight so bacteria could not enter.